This episode of Reimagination Podcast is brought to you by the Communion Cup coffee brand, where every sip is sacred. Use code REIMAGE15 to get 15% off your next order. Thank you.
Welcome everybody to the Reimagination podcast. I'm excited tonight. We have a special guest, and I can't wait for us to hear what she has to say and for you to hear what she has to say. But before she's introduced, let me pass it over to my co-host, who knows her personally, who knows her intimately, and he'll be better, more equipped to be able to introduce her the right way.
All right. So I'm so excited today. Someone who's near and dear to my heart, both personally and professionally. She holds two masters, one being in education and secondary curriculum and administration and school counseling. The second master's being in school counseling. And just to put the cherry on the top, she has a doctorate in counselor education. Some of her areas of expertise and research interests include promoting equity and wellness in education for children and adolescents of marginalized populations, as well as in the areas of college and career readiness, social emotional development, and group counseling. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Please help us to welcome Dr. Kara Ieva.
Hello. That was quite the introduction.
Yes.
I don't know who you're talking about, but sure.
I left out a million and one things, but as far as the things that really are relevant to us and relevant to me, you're someone I picked your brain out for years, and we've had a very interesting relationship. Very interesting relationship. I would say a very graceful and merciful relationship presently
Yeah.
because of circumstances that led into right now,
Yeah.
as well as in the past.
There's always growth, right?
Yes, yes. A lot of professional mercy and a lot of professional grace. I do appreciate that. It's helped me so much. So many lessons I don't have to learn now as a family man that I was able to get out as a young man, and I'm very, very, very thankful. But you know, I was thinking about this coming here, and I'm itching to get it off my chest. Um, I guess I should say it how I thought it.
That's the best way
The best way to
Do I
say
get to
it.
then
The
respond?
best way.
This is great. Okay.
Well, your major areas of research and expertise have to do with marginalized communities.
So I would like to say that that is an antiquated term, and I would like to say
Okay.
under-resourced populations at times that are also marginalized. But yes.
I like that, under research. And I just want to know why a privileged white woman would be so interested in that area.
Okay. That is a good, it's a good start. Man, my colleagues would love to be a part of this conversation, especially the ones I meet with weekly. Um, so let me actually start with the end in mind. So one of the things that happened recently is I want to congratulate you because I didn't know you got married and had two kids. And so that was like a huge growth moment to see in you in that moment when we were having that conversation. Not to mention all the conversations that we also had about career, and I'm not deflecting, I am coming back to me. That that you are in a counseling program too. So and we come from a time period where we were like, no, I'm gonna do STEM because that's what my family says I should be doing. Even though you were so fascinated by people. So I just want to say, one, I am proud of you. I look forward to this conversation, and now I'm going to answer your question. So I grew up in what people would define as an urban suburb of New York City. We are 20 minutes outside of New York City. It is considered an actual urban city, but in the grand scheme of New York City, it's a suburb. And so it's interesting to know that my high school, I actually was the minority. And in my particular high school, we run the gamut of people who had execs and famous people, right, to live right outside the city. But we also had every what I would call classification financially down. And growing up, you were either in the projects going to a birthday party or in a multi-million-dollar mansion. And so code switching was essentially what everyone in my city did because you could be in any one of those places and spaces. I had always gravitated And I truly, people believe that I am not a white woman, so I need to share that piece too. And there are many funny stories along the way. But at the same time, I also came from a place in space where if you were to walk into cafeterias, even back then, we had two cafeterias. One was white and black, and one was all denominations of Hispanic backgrounds, and I would say non-African American, so black but from other cultures, right? And it was very opening to me at that time period. Also keeping in mind that I started well, you don't know this, but I started working with known youth offenders, like gang affiliates, because I was a school counselor and I was the person that people trusted, and we had a silent communication and how things can go down. And so I've always been intuitive to a population, always.
Really? They tend to not trust people that look like y'all too.
What was the movie? Dangerous Minds.
No, I'm not even gonna go there, but also keep in mind that I felt more comfortable in spaces and places of people who are of color than not.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, that is what I can't, because if you were to look at like my family, like everyone but me is like blonde haired, blue eyed, and like.
So they judge you for your hair color?
No, not necessarily. It just is like, if you were to look at like a family dynamic or like pictures, you would also be like, who are you and why are you with all of these people? But I can say that my aunt did marry a man who was Puerto Rican, and I was fascinated with his family and culture really early on. And so I imagine that led me to ultimately majoring in Spanish. But I get off the phone with people, with like people that I look up to, like prominent Black scholars, and they get off the phone and say, "You're a Black woman, right?" And I'm like, "No," but that's the greatest compliment you could possibly give me. So I work, ironically, every week for group counseling specifically. I work in a research meeting with two people. One is like literally Southern Georgia Belle, who also is focused on anti-racist practices, and then a Black man who grew up as an army brat and lived in all different places and also abroad. And he says to me every time, I look at our partner and I know that she's a white woman. I talk to you every day and I don't ever think that you are a white woman. In my heart, I know what you look like, but in my heart, you're always a Black woman. And so it's just been really also a welcoming from a community as well too. And someone else has always said this, like I do a lot of anti-racist work, and why I get called sometimes is that I can challenge people, but they take it from me. And I don't know if it's because I'm a white woman or how I'm translating it to them. But that, so it is what it is. Mm-hmm.
So now, my question is not from me because I know what you mean when you say it. It's for the viewers that are watching and everything. When you say you have conversations with people and they see
Yes.
your pigment and they say white, but when I listen to you and everything, it's a Black woman. What does a Black woman sound?
Yeah, I ask that question all the time too. I think, and you are this way too, but I think that I speak reality, right? So I'm not filtered. I'm straight to the point, and I'm not trying to like beat around the bush. So intuitive is probably my greatest asset that I would say as a human. And so really early on, I was intuitive to what was happening. I was intuitive to what oppression looked like. I was intuitive to what systems look like before I even ever entered them. And then once you are, you only ever look at it. So it was really hard to not understand what was happening around me.
Yeah, you answered the question too perfectly because now I see I'm just having a whole image. I know one or two people have a similar where they're like the majority, they're the majority in society, but then they were the minority in their microcosm of where they're growing up. And I see how they're able to interact. There's certain people, and I guess we're getting a little raunchy or a little vulgar, but I'll just say it like it is. There's certain people I'll just say it like it is. There's certain white people that I see that I know love me and don't judge me, and then there's certain white people and I see and they look at me like them, or like that's the best way I can say it. They look at me like I'm equal or I'm just as much as human to you, and so you've always had that. Not like it didn't look like you were tolerating me. It looked like you accepted me, and it's difficult to explain unless you've lived as a marginalized or an under-resourced or a minority person in a community, what that feels like when people are kind of like tolerating you more
Yes.
than actually communicating with you and interacting with you.
See you as a human.
Yeah,
I
they
get
see
that
you as a
piece.
human. I'm trying to explain it more, but
My question is because I want to go deeper into I don't want to walk away from the why still. I still want to get to the why because oftentimes what we're drawn to is what we don't have, right? We're always drawn to what we lack, right? When we don't have, we're drawn to. So in what drew you to that community, what drew you to that people group and everything, could it have been something that you were lacking as you grew up? Because you spoke a lot about your family, a little bit about your family, about how everybody looked different than you, right? You're the one that stood out. Did you feel growing up that maybe you were the black sheep of the family, or you felt as if?
Well, I have a wife. I was already the black sheep of the family.
But I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you didn't have a wife and everything when you were a little girl.
But I was the chubby kid when everyone else wasn't. My cousins were all models. But no, I wasn't lacking. If I look back, I'm like, I had the greatest childhood in general. And I also feel like I it wasn't for a lacking. I think similar to Anayo in these ways, I am a very curious being. I could sit in a place in space and I don't need people to talk. I know exactly what's happening just by the energy. And so I feel like it was more along the lines of I also you know what it is? Actually, here's what it is. I knew where I was privileged and where I wasn't very early on. And one of it was my parents were divorced in the 70s, and that, right, that was like a taboo thing. And so I feel like my mom raised us the best that she could, but keeping in mind, like we were in what was considered a very wealthy area on a single income. And so we didn't have money, but all of my mom and dad grew up there, so all of their friends did. So I never lacked in the sense of like we did not go on vacation, but I was always constantly aware of what we didn't have and what we did
what's
have.
your birth order?
I'm the baby.
Baby out of what? How many?
2.
Oh, two.
Yeah.
So
Just
basically,
a-
it's the baby or the second.
Okay, I don't have any psychological profiles. for the
Also,
baby.
keeping in mind, my sister was a very shy human. I would have to walk her across the street at like 4 years old to have her go play with the neighbors.
I have a stereotype for babies because I'm a baby,
Yeah.
right? And my stereotype and everything like that was one, we're taken care of, right? That the babies and everything like that, the older ones, cousins, aunts, uncles, and everything like that. You come, you see the older child, but there's the baby and everything like that that gets the most of the attention. But also the babies, they want to take care of people, right? They want to take care of people, right? Because they're touched with like the infirmities, they're touched and everything with people's struggles more and everything because of their positioning in the birth pattern and everything in their families. So for me, that's how I was. I always wanted to help. I was always able to recognize or identify what other people didn't, which was like the struggles that people went through and everything, no matter the age, no matter the ethnicity or the denomination and everything. So that's one of the things that I've recognized.
Yeah, no, I know the baby one. I just know the youngest. I mostly have more than two. They always I don't know if I want to use the word entitled, but they're always like they don't know what the other ones went through to get to
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
get that. That's the only stereotype that I have. That you don't know what you get because you're complaining about. Mom told you to come in. Have to come in by 12 a.m. I'm like, boy, we have to be in by 8.
Yeah.
And now but they're all worn down. I'm middle of 5.
Yeah.
So by the time they got to the youngest one, and I guess I
They were
don't.
tired.
Yeah, they're tired, and they expect us to raise him and everything like that. So no, that's interesting. And I think we'll come back to childhood. The peak here is very interesting, but relative to this podcast, we spoke a little bit on the open house I run about the intricacies and the similarities, compares and contrasts of mental health and spirituality.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in picking your brain. First, maybe we can have a premise for what we're considering spirituality.
Yeah.
And then let's compare. So I don't know, maybe you can, when I say spirituality, what are you assuming? What are you understanding?
I assume beyond religion, right? Like religion is a part of spirituality,
Yes, that's good.
but there are many aspects of spirituality that don't come in the form of organized religion.
That's Thank you. That's good. That's better than I was gonna say. That's good. So, okay, so okay, we'll say that.
Yeah.
So with that being said, in comparison to mental health, what is your idea and how do you see it, even maybe even in your own practice?
So, uh, ironically, right? So I will start with religion and then grow out because I think this is explains it for me in the sense of I grew up Catholic. I did all my sacraments, right? And I also happen to have a wife,
Okay.
and it really wasn't.
How long? When did you get married to your wife?
Oh yeah, so that's a long.
Or
That's a
how long
long
have you been with her?
time.
That's a better.
That's a very long time. So I've been with my wife for 24 years.
How old were you when you guys first started? I guess the
When
young
we
folks
first
say
started
going
dating,
together.
I was already graduated from college. I was a teacher, so
Your religion stuff predates that.
predates that. I probably still dabbled in the sense of like,
They knew like same-sex attraction.
yeah, yeah, that happened in college. Yeah,
So
for
that
sure.
started in college.
Well,
Well, when did
I
your parents find out?
recognized it at college. All of it was college.
So family found out everything in college.
Everybody college.
Okay, and now I'm gonna slightly go into
Yeah, go ahead.
investigator mode. So why is it that you're bringing that up when we talk about your childhood? What about that is related to your childhood? Or am I not? Am I connecting?
It's related to religion, right? So like I grew up in organized religion
Okay.
and everything was centered around that, right?
Okay.
And then, it's really hard to belong to a church that doesn't necessarily accept who you are as a human in those moments and times. And so I've always believed in what I loved about religion was community and like essentially metaphors in a way for values, right? Until those values don't necessarily conflict with my life. And so I always felt like I wanted something else to, like when I would have kids, I always wanted something else to teach values that wasn't just us, that extended throughout the home and was a part of life. But I also have a lot of, I don't want to call it ill will, but I also have a lot of doubt in organized religion for many other reasons, right? Which is ironic.
Good company.
Which is ironic because I'm a group person. And so I think when I think of spirituality, right, people are seeking health and people are seeking peace, right? And I think that there are multiple ways to do that and to reach that
Health
honest
and peace, you said.
yes.
Okay.
And I think there are multiple ways to do that in many different spiritual practices that either come from religion or don't come from religion. And I don't judge where it comes from for people because I want people to be on a path for better wellness and for better peace of mind and peace of right and for peace of mind. But I also value what spirituality and or religion as a total package does for individuals. And I think it can be utilized for amazing transformations and growth, but I also feel like it can silo and pigeonhole people and keep them from growth
Like
based on
prayer,
that
depression,
too.
Just pray and your
Yes.
depression will go. So do you think, so I like the parallels. I always, for some reason, I don't know if it's, see now I'm downplaying myself. I believe there's so many parallels between both religion and spirituality and mental health. One being, and I'm curious if you think, if you have any like contradictions or anything like that. So the understanding of your psyche being what religion, organized religion, Christianity would consider your soul, be your soul. So that's your mind, your will, your emotions, decision making, imagination, personality. So that's all those things.
I was really down with indigenous cultures. I think from a spiritual aspect, that's where I would like to be.
Indigenous, when you say indigenous to Native America, and how?
Because they believe in that alignment, right? They believe in the alignment of the mind, body, the spirit, and the soul, right? Like it all, and to be living harmoniously and in balance with one another. And to me, that is wellness, right?
And what's interesting, and I now want to segue to you. Religion doesn't really care about mental health and your body or your lifestyle. As long as your body isn't a crackhead, isn't drinking alcohol, isn't having serial promiscuity and everything. That's the only thing they care about, your body. At least that's my understanding of religion as I came up. And so I'm curious for you, what's your thoughts?
Religion, first of all, like religion in the context of the word, we don't really understand it, right? religion is repetition. Religion and everything is a series of things that we do to get an outcome, right? And it's something that you're just told to do, and this will work, right? 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 2 is 4, right? That's what religion is, right? Spirituality or relationship and everything is not doing certain things because you're told to do it, but understanding the reward of it, right? In the church, for the most part, I said this before, mental health is like a four-letter word, right? You don't deal with mental issues. You don't deal with traumas. You don't deal with scar. You don't deal with those things. You pray about it, right? You fast about it and everything. And nowhere in the Bible does it say to do that alone, right? There needs to be more ingredients within the equation of mental health than just praying about stuff and everything. The Bible says that you have to confess to one another, right? The things you're going through. What does that mean? Counseling, right? One of God's names is counselor, right? But we don't like to talk about counselor because, oh, no, that's not what the counselor means. It means he'll speak to us. No. We also have to speak to him and others about the things that we're going through, because the more we keep it inside, the more and everything it piles up and it builds up and everything, and it breaks our understanding of reality.
I want to build on that and think about this. So I think of it from a neuro perspective. And when I think about it, I think about the brain, and I also think about it from an energy perspective. So to your point, right, religion's a set of prescriptive beliefs, right? Absolutely. And they can either work in your favor or they can hinder you. Absolutely. Is kind of what I was referring to. Whereas spirituality takes into this aspect of, I think of like old days of what religion used to do, right? If we were having a mental health crisis, right, there was an exorcism in the Catholic Church or whatever the case may be. And what's interesting about that now is what we know now, just from a neuroscience perspective, is we know we don't know enough about the brain, but we do know enough to know that we know how it's connected to our heart, how it's connected to our body, and our overall peace and spirituality. And so I go to the brain before anywhere else.
Okay. To that, I'm going to ask you this question and everything, because where do thoughts come from? All right, thoughts come from the perception of emotion, right? Something causes you to feel.
So let me pause you, Doc. Emotions come first or thoughts come first?
So there is, you ever hear the phrase, if you're ever upset, wait 90 seconds?
No, I never heard that.
Like, if it's the difference between you reacting, right, and responding, right? Absolutely. And part of that is because thoughts, right, create emotions that keep you in that thought cycle for 90 seconds.
Thoughts come first, not feelings.
Yeah. And I don't know.
And let's go.
No, I don't believe that. I don't necessarily believe that, so don't say that. Because I'm an intuitive person. I'm going to go with my gut and my emotions first any day of the week. But that doesn't change the fact that there are people who don't operate that way. And so not everybody operates in that. I'm an emotion first person.
What I believe in everything is that people's interpretation of what comes first is based upon the type of person that they are, right? When something happens, it happens almost unconscious or subconsciously, where the thought is there, but you don't think it first, you feel it first. And then the feeling communicates to the brain, and the brain communicates to the mouth. And the mouth communicates to the words, and the words and everything create an atmosphere of worry, an atmosphere of doubt, atmosphere of fear, which further strengthens or increases the anxiety or that emotion. So it's a cycle over and over and over again and everything. But like you said and everything, you don't necessarily prescribe to that and everything, because I can tell that you're a person that's your intuition and everything. And intuition comes from your feelings, your emotions. I got a gut feeling, or I feel like something's wrong and everything, right?
And then I need to explore what it is, and I'll get to the thought. But other people are opposite.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even to that about the 90 seconds and everything, the 90-second pause between feel and think and everything is what causes you or stops you from turning a thought into a word. You can suppress a thought, but you can't take back a word. When you release a word, whether it's hurtful or whether it's good, it leaves and it can't be undone.
How do you feel about what he says? Because he's not professionals like us. So how do you feel about what
this is his way and everything like that of causing an issue?
So actually, I'll give it to you from the debate that happens in the mental health space. How about that? Right? So we've just had this conversation a minute ago, right? So counseling is is born out of psychology. And psychology is really about attending to the deficit and getting to a specific problem, right? And then solving that problem. Whereas counseling is like, let's put it all together, and it's a wellness model. And how do all those things come together? And so I don't think it's a specific well, but it's not a specific remedy for everyone either, because it really does depend on many things. We know epigenetics is at play now, meaning that,
Thank you.
yes,
What are epigenetics?
epigenetics are that you can pass down genetically mental health genes, and we know this from slavery, we know this from the Holocaust, and it can come up to 3 generations. So you could be someone born predisposition to anxiety because your DNA code was written that way, and that you're not starting on an equal playing field. You don't know it though, right?
That's a parallel right there, 3 generations. Because I know I grew up Old Testament. They read, after everybody's generational curses. That 3 generations.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Generational.
Wow.
This is like biblical. It will be passed down to your fathers, to your children, 3 and 4 generations.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing.
But also think about that in our world today and where we are with technology, right? And I say that to say what we require our brains to do and to not have a rest, right, is a lot more than any other time and space that people have. So so brains have evolved while simultaneously having instant access and also a predisposition genetically. And so if it's not,
Predisposition to what genetically? Depression, hopelessness, anxiety, neuroticism.
Things that happen to you don't necessarily happen to other people because they don't have that in their bloodline.
Spiritual or genetic?
I mean, we are talking about epigenetics, so in some form or fashion, that's genetic. But it also, environment matters.
Is it blood?
Environment matters.
Okay.
Environment matters.
So
it's like the nurture-nature thing. Yes.
Nature, nurture. Okay, so is that nature? Is that nature or nurture? Do you think the likelihood of your child being more neurotic because you were traumatized?
Well, you also have to get school in the mix here. Because remember, school's 6 hours a day for most children. And not even, right? So they spend a lot of time really having experiences that either are helping them to thrive or really putting them down and making them feel shameful about who they are. And so it can't just be about the home, right?
And it's even in between.
Ecological system model.
Some schools and everything just teach their children in the net, and they don't address individual issues. So it's not even that they're combating what's happening at home or not happening at home. You're just coming in one way and leaving the exact same way you came in. So the time that they're at school is empty time. It's time and everything where kids are not really learning because they're at one level and other children are on other levels, but the teachers are teaching everybody on that same level. So there's some kids that fall through the cracks. There's some kids that go back to their home and they're dealing with all of this stuff and they're not getting any answers, and it creates an environment, right? The way people talk, how people live, the expectation, the trauma that your parents have gone through when it's voice, like we said, heart, head, mouth, create an environment, right, for a climate for your child and everything that now it starts, in the Bible it talks about how we've been born into sin and shaped into iniquity. Iniquity is generational sin, right, blood sin. So what happens is you're born into sin. Sin is in your blood, but your family shapes you based upon the culture and the community that you're in to start reproducing the things that they've done in their lives. Oh, you're just like your father. Oh, you're just like your mother. Oh, you're not going to be a success. You start forming a child's mind because their mind is not stable yet. Their mind is not set yet. So your words dictate to them their thought patterns, even the image that they have of themselves, because you're their mirror. Mom is the mirror, dad is the mirror. So if my mirror is telling me I'm dumb, guess what? After a while and everything, I'm going to start believing that.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the term ACEs? So adverse childhood experiences,
Oh,
right?
yes, ACE. I call it ACE.
Yeah, okay. Well, in general, we know, right? It's linked to much later things on in life. But we also know that for every negative experience, like 3 positive experiences can change it. And so you also, I'm just challenging you on this, you also talk about like teachers teaching to the middle regardless of who's in. The reality of what we do know is that relationships matter.
Absolutely.
Learning only takes place as a result of relationships. And the rationale for that is it decompresses, it co-regulates them, it takes them out of survivor mode, it takes them out of trauma mode to be able to input information, because communication is the thing that we lose when we are at our most overwhelmed.
I have two things, double barrel. One, I believe that my understanding, this is my theory, is that things materialize where we can take research on them, because I believe that someone can have when symptoms of depression come on, I believe that through behaviors and through different things that come on, that spiritually it attracts what the person is meditating on.
Energy. I call it
Energy. Okay, energy, spirit. We can use energy and spirit almost interchangeable. So when things happen, whether let's say you're being traumatized, it's putting something on you. Anything you meditate and you put your mind on, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So when you start thinking depression, a spirit of heaviness comes on you, and then it shows up biologically. That was my double barrel.
You don't think it's the other way around?